Hey there, DC and video game fans. This is Wesseltron. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new DC Collectibles Wonder Woman vs. Solomon Grundy 2-pack from the new Injustice Gods Among Us video game. Like I said, these just hit. I just got them in my pile of loot, I think Monday or Tuesday, and I was very excited to get them in hand, so I went ahead and shipped everything. These things look awesome. I'm really excited to have them. As you can see, packaging is tiny, like absolutely tiny. I mean, if you look here, we got a Predator. It's a small freaking box. This box is itty bitty. Not a whole lot to it. It's a standard window box. On the side, in a fit of classiness, they have a picture of each figure sculpted by Paul Harding for Wonder Woman, sculpted by Phil Ramirez for Solomon Grundy. Very cool. I love that. On the back, we got great cross-sells showing all the figures that you can get. Little stuff about the game here, like the producers and stuff. And at the top, we've got a little bit of information about the game, if you want to check that out. So very cool. Side is just another shot of the figures. We do have two figures to go over, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the packaging. Let's bust them out and see what they're like. And here we have Wonder Woman and Solomon Grundy out of packaging. And these figures are a bit on the small end, as you will see once I get Wonder Woman here stood up a little bit. A lot of figures these days are going from away from 375 and more into the 4-inch realm. Things like G.I. Joe, Marvel Universe, they are definitely going towards 4-inch. As you'll see, compared to a G.I. Joe female, Wonder Woman is pretty small. She definitely would not be able to hold her own against Marvel Universe figures, who are considerably taller. Here's Cyclops from Marvel U. So you can see he's a lot taller than she is, and that might work for a comparison with Superman, but Cyclops isn't supposed to be a really big guy. So they are a little bit on the small end, which may affect your opinion of the value, and I would totally understand that. Now, there is an included diorama type thing, and it's not really a diorama so much as it is getting in the way here. Just a cardboard backdrop that you can put the figures in if you like. It's just included inside the box. It's already put together. This is actually like where the tray would sit inside the box. And it's just got some nice artwork from the game and stuff, some of the levels that you fight on. So if you want to, you can display your figures there. It's a nice little addition. So that's pretty neat. But yeah, these figures are pretty cool. I dig them. I actually dig them a lot. Wonder Woman here has good and bad points. The good thing is she looks incredible. Like the detail that they went into on her armor, the paintwork, aside from her horribly painted fingernails, which you just probably shouldn't try to paint fingernails at this scale. She just looks like she's got blood on the tips of her fingers. But yeah, they did a great job. I mean, you can see the bird, the eagle on her, I guess, belt sort of thing there. Nice, like, Spartan skirt here with the metal pieces at the end, which actually kind of resemble that bird look too. Spikes on her armor, nice paintwork throughout. Very, very nicely done. My issue with her really is just that she doesn't stand out as Wonder Woman to me. Like, when I look at her, I see elements of Wonder Woman, but I just kind of think, oh, look, there's an Amazonian. She doesn't have any blue on her costume, nothing in the skirt area. This is all brown here. And she doesn't come with a lasso, a sword, a shield. In the game, she uses sword and shield as her weapons, and then the lasso is like a special weapon that she can use for other things. But she didn't come with any accessories at all. So for me, she feels definitely like the one who's hurting in the pack in terms of value, because she is so small. But they did, I have to say, do an outstanding job with her. Nice job on the hair here on the front and back. This is all very soft plastic, so you can move the head around without any problems, which I think is cool. And that may be why they decided to go with this costume over her other costume where her hair hangs long down her back. But still, very nice looking figure, even if it doesn't immediately strike me as Wonder Woman. I think if I go through the parts bin and give her a sword, And maybe a shield if I can find one, that might help a little bit. But yeah, still a very nice looking figure. Nice musculature, yeah, not super Wonder Woman-y to me. I'll just lay her down. Grundy here, however, looks very, very awesome. Now, granted, this is a huge, huge departure from how Grundy has ever looked in the past. Completely different. So if you are a huge fan of Solomon Grundy, you may actually hate this costume. And, you know, that's well within your rights to do that, because it is very different. Normally we see him in like an open suit jacket that's torn up and stuff, but he's got like a messy mop top type of hair here. It just basically looks like a dude who crawled out of the grave, which is what he is. But on the action figure, or in the game at least, they, I think, are going through some changes over the course of the game where they develop like factions against each other. And obviously he goes for kind of a more punk type look, like post-apocalyptic punk, I guess. But it actually makes for a cool looking action figure. They did a nice job making his cuffs there look leather. Great musculature, like amazing. Like it's not just super muscular, it also looks like muscle and sinew, like he's maybe deteriorating a little bit and parts of his muscles are showing through, which is very cool. But very, very huge, like just a big chunk of muscle. Very, very much into how this guy looks. He's got like a sort of a prison cut on top, and on the back he has a ton of knives and things that have been shoved in his back, which looks really cool, especially on the video game. But unfortunately, the way they're boxed, they all come at an angle like this, and I've seen other people that have done the same thing. So I'm guessing that's fairly regular. Unfortunately, when you try and fix that with heat, like I did, like joints and things like that, they are painted, so every time you move them, you may see that there's already like paint stress in there, where the paint's cracking because I tried to move them. You can't really move them back into shape because they are painted, because the paint will crack off and it'll just look like crap. So that's pretty crappy. I don't like that at all. But, you know, what are you going to do? That's the way it is. So, nice job on the texturing throughout the entire figure. Great job on the paint work. They did a very nice, like, gray wash over all the skin tone. It's going to be difficult to see because he is a pretty small figure, but he's got, like, bright green eyes. Very, very cool. Just like an angry expression, kind of like the Hulk. This would make a great base for, like, a weird punk Hulk. Yeah, very cool. Big 90s leg straps on his thigh for no reason. They don't actually hold anything. They're just there. Yeah. And then like big leather work boots, which I think are really cool and actually simulate leather really nicely. It actually sort of reminds me of NECA's work, where it's like a deep brown and then painted with like a black wash. Very cool. And peg holes for both figures. So very, very nice. I dig the way he looks. Now, as far as articulation, these guys are pretty similar, but not identical, so I will be going over them individually. But for Grundy here, we start with a ball-jointed head. So he's got not much in the way of up and down, a little bit. Some nice side-to-side in terms of tilt. And, of course, you know, you can go around and stuff, but he will be blocked a little bit by his collar, so you may have to move that around a little. So swivel hinges in the shoulders go out to about there. So nice range there, and they, of course, go all the way around. Swivels in the biceps. Hinges at each elbow. So we get about that much motion. Not a ton. Certainly not 90 degrees, but not bad. Yeah, it's about as far as it's going to go. Swivels in the wrist. Very nice. We've got the ball-jointed torso here. So you get a little bit, maybe. I'm not getting much in the way of tilt forward and back. Not really much side to side either. And then a swivel, though. The swivel works very nicely. And then we have the hinge underneath that, which allows for some nice forward movement and nice back movement. So very cool there. We've got ball-jointed hips. They are balled at 45-degree angles. I always say that. I had 90-degree angles. So you can see the ball in there. So it gives you a little bit forward, some back, and then out to the sides, which is very nice. And the knees, we've got double hinges, but we also have a swivel in the top. So this is a swivel hinge and then a hinge at the bottom. So the swivel hinge works very nicely because once you get the leg out, you can twist it around and do whatever you need, and it bends there, of course. Mine on this one actually is loose. When I got it out of the package, it would just pull right out, and I've done a little work to try and help it, but you can still kind of tug on that and it'll come dislocated a little bit. So it can pop back into place, and I did work on that a little bit with some heat, so that's good. The second joints on these, on Grundy at least, are very tight, and I've not been able to get them to move, even with the hot water trick. I don't want to completely dismantle them because from the design it doesn't look like they're going to get that much motion out of them anyway, especially on the left leg. I'm sorry, his right leg, this one here. There's not much clearance there. This one looks like it could get a little bit more, but I think it would just be too much trouble to dismantle it. So, yeah, the double hinges don't really work on this guy. But we do have swivels in the boot tops instead of any type of hinge. So that's a bit of a bummer because he is sort of a back-heavy character, and he wants to fall a lot, so you do kind of have to hunch him, which works for Grundy because he is a character who's always hunching anyway, but, you know, just... I wish he had the ankle joints to kind of just keep him standing a little better and help with like walking poses. So, but the swivels do help quite a bit. Now, Wonder Woman has very similar articulation. She's got ball jointed head, you know, little bit of motion inside to side, not a lot, virtually nothing up and down. She is limited, if you look at the side, by her hair sculpt, not the actual plastic of it, but inside the ball there's just not a lot of space there, so she's constantly looking down. So you may have to fix that if you want her to look at her enemies. Swivel hinges in the shoulders go out to about there. Instead of having a bicep, she's got swivel hinges in the elbows, so she swivels there and bends about 90 degrees, very nice. Swivels in the top of the bracelets, so very cool. She has the ball-jointed torso, but hers works much better. You can see there's a nice range there. But on a figure this small, it's not really going to help that much. I mean, you're talking about, you know, going from there to there. It's not a great amount of movement there. But then she's got the great ab hinge, which goes very far forward and pretty far back. So very cool. She's got ball-jointed hips, which do seem to be very limited. I can't get them to go forward very far. They only go forward about that far. Because of the design of the hip here, they actually have plastic blocking the leg from moving forward. So that's a huge bummer for me because she's a really aggressive, action-y character. So I'd like to see her with more movement there. Back only about that far because of the butt pack. But out to the side is decent. She's not going to get like a perfect kick, but it won't be bad. Of course, she's also got the swivel hinges in the top of the knees, but her double hinge works much better. Very smooth on that. I think this was actually, out of both sets, the only figure that didn't have any kind of seized joints or problems with the joints. Like, she moves very, very fluidly, so I really appreciate that. Swivel hinges in the boots, or in the ankles, rather, and they are the Hasbro style, so they hinge down very far and hinge up a little bit, not a lot, but they do have some nice side-to-side action. So no... rockers or anything there, which would have been very cool, but not bad. So what it ultimately comes down to in a set like this is, you know, your value. What is this worth the money? And it was a $27 set, so that is very expensive for two 4-inch, 3/75-inch scale figures. So what are we talking about in terms of value? Well, Wonder Woman, very, very nice action figure. Very cool. Not the best representation of the character, in my opinion, but a very cool action figure. Unfortunately, she has two clasping hands. You see that? In there. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. But comes with neither her sword nor her shield from the game, nor her lasso. And lasso, it's ridiculous that a Wonder Woman character wouldn't come with a lasso because... I mean, all you need is a piece of gold thread. I mean, that's a little absurd. That's a little ridiculous to not include that accessory. And for some reason, like, action figure versions of her love to not include it. I don't know why. So, $13.50 for this figure on its own, not an awesome deal. This is closer to what MU would offer, but even then you would get something, like a small accessory or a stand or something, and those are $10. But that being said, they do have a much wider distribution, so I can understand why their prices can be a little more affordable. But in terms of Grundy, we do not only get a huge figure, but we also get an accessory, which is like a shank. You get a nice little shank here that I believe is supposed to go, if you look on his back here with all these bent knives, there's a hole there. And I think this is supposed to, because it fits fairly nicely in there, go into its back. The only problem is it sticks way far out, so I mean, it fits the hole right, but it's so far out that it makes me wonder why they didn't cut it deeper. But you do get that, and it is also a very massive action figure. So this figure definitely feels closer to that $13.50 mark. You know, I would think that this would be like what Hasbro would offer at the $10 mark in terms of like a Hulk character or something like that, because Hulk doesn't come with accessories. So I think Grundy is worth it. Wonder Woman, value-wise, like, she looks very cool, but value-wise, I'm not sure she's worth it. But as a set, I do think it's a really cool set. It's neat to have them together. And to have like 4 characters all at once instead of having to like slowly get them out over time. Let me grab the other characters real quick so we can show them to you, and that way you can see them all together, sort of how the set is coming together so far. So very nice, unique look at each individual character, like similar to things that they've done in the past, but not exact representations of those costumes. So they do have some nice imagination at work here. The only other thing I will say about value, because I do feel like $27, even though it's expensive, is still not bad for these figures, because they do have such small production runs and are pretty cool action figures, is that they are still using that clear plastic in the joints. And where it wasn't quite as noticeable on Green Arrow and Deathstroke, on her, because she's got that ball jointed elbow, you see the light coming through there? There's a lot of paint, because they I guess didn't want it to look bad with their clear joints, but they just painted it, but they painted it sort of sloppily. You see there's paint just like liberally applied to that area, and it doesn't look good. So it's not the end of the world, but especially on flesh parts, it's not something that you really want to see on your action figures. But $27 for the set works for me. It's going to work for future groups as long as they can keep to that price point from BBTS. If they start getting upwards of 30, then the value goes way down. But for now, not bad for the price. Not excellent. I could totally see, as I said in the Green Arrow review, where a lot of people aren't going to be willing to pay that price for them. But if you do like the designs from the game, it's definitely worth a shot. It's I believe, better than what Mattel's producing. With its limited articulation, it's just not the same for an action game. So that's pretty much it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks to 500 subscribers once again. Appreciate you guys. If you have any questions or comments, throw them in the box below, and I'd be glad to help them. So, yeah, talk to you later, guys. Thanks. Bye.